This episode of the Oh No 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 podcast is sponsored by Dynamic Industrial Services, the rope access specialists. As long-time Wraith Rovers supporters, we are very familiar with ropey performances. But if you need a service that's more Sam Stanton than Willie Accio, look no further than DIS. Operating across Scotland, they specialise in working at height, offering maintenance, inspection, repairs and more. So if you've got a problem at a height that even John Fredrickson can't reach, visit dynamicindustrialservices.co.uk to find out more.
Hello and welcome back to the Oh No 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 podcast, where it is now time to begin. We've got 10 teams, a few of them being absolute basket cases, 180 matches in a league table where nobody knows what to expect. Liam McLeod is probably excitedly pacing about his living room right now, and Jonathan Sliverland, I'm sure, has been using the Euros to actually practice keeping scores for once. Welcome back to the 2024-2025 Championship season, where tonight we're here to look at things with our Rovers-tinted glasses on and preview each one of the teams in the league. My name's Robbie, and I'm delighted to be firstly joined by our resident Ayrshire expert. We've got Graeme Meldrum. How are you doing, Graeme?
I'm fine. I've actually recovered now for being the only Rovers, one of two Rovers fans in Gran Canaria, whilst the Rovers played pre-season in Kirkcaldy and Methil. Never been so gutted in my life. I spent 9 months sitting being smug going, see if there's a game. I'm there because my holidays are booked.
You and Cammy would have been sorted. It would have been
exactly. We would have been there, prime position. Fantastic time, but hey-ho, no Rovers.
And much like us, you've got a bit of sponsorship news as well came through.
Yes, we Cameron and I are the proud, or will be the proud owners at the end of the season of Liam Dick's Away Top.
It was expected to see that. I know that he'd been sponsored before by other people, but now you've managed to finally secure the one that you were after there. Joining us also from a rather humid and warm Barcelona, Carol. What's the weather like over there?
It has been the hottest days on record the last 2 days. We hit 40.7 degrees at the official weather station. So I am hot. And I have put ice in my beer and I don't care. Come for me.
Nobody's judging. No, well, I'm sure there probably is actually people judging, but we're not ones.
Yeah, they'll judge anything, yeah.
That's it. We've got our prediction king here, Mr. Scott Fleming. How you doing, Scott?
Yeah, really good, mate. Thankfully, we'll get the season underway after all these League Cup. Especially after Saturday, I thought it was a bit of a non-event, but good to get the season going and competitive action again. So now really looking forward to the season starting.
Excellent. And then if we're talking about prediction winners, we've got to talk about the prediction creator, Mr. Blair Hopcroft, who's had a busy wee day. How you doing, Blair?
I'm very well, mate. I'm using my school holidays wisely. So we'll come on to that, I'm sure, in due course. But there's 56 people signed up for the prediction for this weekend already. So yeah, we'll have a bit of a blather about that, I'm sure.
Absolutely no doubt about it. So remind me to come back to that later on. As I say, we're here to just cover off, give you a quick fire summary of the league from Rovers-tinted perspective. I doubt we'll reach the 7.5 hours that the Terrace managed to grace us with for that's a real feat in podcasting, by the way. 7.5 hours to go through each and every one of the 32 teams in the Scottish Championship.
We get complaints when we hit an hour and a half. I think if we hit 7 hours,
I think we'll be pushing that tonight. I think they got 2 hours on the Championship, so we'll try and keep it. And they didn't mention a patent, as I said, so I think we might get off the hook with this one. So yeah, each of us has been assigned with clubs. Me and Scott are going to pick up a couple, and then as well we'll discuss Airdrie and Raith Rovers right at the end of it. So yeah, to kick us off, as I say, a resident Ayrshire expert. We've got Graeme there, residing down that neck of the woods. So who better to start us off by covering off Ayr United and what they've been up to during the summer?
Well, it's excitable apparently down here. And who knew people could get so excited about a new stand? But then again, Ayr was voted the worst seaside town in Scotland recently, so perhaps a new stand does get people excited. I don't know. But a new stand. Welcome to the new, was this 21st century? Which is a bit of a shame, really, because that North Terrace is probably one of the best vantage points for watching football at our level. I think the terrace behind the goal was absolutely atrocious. It's not steep enough, so to get rid of a good terrace and put a stand in, hey ho. They seem to be quite happy about that. They seem to be quite happy. They played Celtic in a friendly, and they drew Celtic in a friendly. So it's all it's all coming together for Ayr United. It's amazing. Biggest thing for me, looking at this, is I think they have to do well this season. I think they've made a lot of investment in the ground. They've brought Scott Brown in. I think for Scott Brown as well, he certainly has to have a good season. I don't think he's at last chance saloon with his managerial career, but I don't think if he doesn't pull up many trees with Ayr United this season or next, then I think he's not really going anywhere. He's the kind of guy you would look at as a young manager, potential to go somewhere, but he needs to do something at Ayr, and I certainly know he's been given a budget to attract him to the job and to see what he can do. So who knows?
I think it's a very valid question. It's probably after the season that we had, because we had a lot of hype behind us last summer. So we kind of know what it feels like from that perspective. Do you think that kind of puts a bit of pressure on Ayr to sort of go out and, given what we achieved last season, to manage to finish second place, run United close and then get to the playoff finals? Do you think that puts a bit of pressure and expectancy that they should be looking at the same, Graeme?
Yeah, definitely. I think with who they've brought in, there is that. We all know that George Oakley apparently got offered twice as much as he was at Morton to come to Ayr United. They've brought in Anton Dowser. That's two big guys. They can play football, yeah, but what does that matter? They're two big lumps of guys up front. They've brought in speedy wingers, so they're going to feed the two guys up front. And I think in central midfield, I never thought I would see this from a team at our level, that they've got in central midfield an Albanian youth internationalist and a Romanian youth internationalist. This is mental. Absolutely mental. Who would have thought that?
Who's the Albanian?
Roy Silla.
All right.
I had him last season.
Oh, of course.
So there's been a big change in the squad there. I think seeing some of the pre-season friendlies, the goalie looks dodgy. Harry Stone didn't cover himself in glory. I thought Scott McMahon was a tremendous signing, but then he's playing at centre half.
Yeah. Because Masonda was playing at left back during the League Cup,
which is a bit strange, and it's really sad when you get to my age and Ayr United start signing guys who you've seen their dad play for the Rovers. Yeah, Darren Henderson was a bit of a journeyman winger and midfielder, that played with the Rovers. So he's come down from Ross County, his son. So they've high hopes for him. I did before doing this research, I did a wee bit of market research. So I asked some of my son's pals what they thought of their team, and let me quote.
See if you start pulling out some words that we didn't know what they mean, mate. Go and translate for the over 21s.
That'll be fine.
Fidgetal.
Fidgetal.
That word just makes me squirm.
Apparently Harry Stone is shite. They need a new central midfielder. They've lots of wingers, but most of them are shite. However, we've still got the best team in the league.
Youthful optimism.
It's pre-season optimism, isn't it? Everybody's got the best team at this time of year.
I don't know. It depends. It depends if you frequent the Scottish football forums and read those as well, like we do, Graeme. So yeah, I think that Ayr didn't get out the League Cup group. They finished on 9 points, which was joint with Dundee United and Falkirk. It was.
Yep.
So yeah, they were only a goal behind Dundee United in that, but obviously I think United still managed to squeeze through. So I'm going to guess there's a bit of disappointment about that. So it'll be interesting to see how the season develops for Ayr, particularly as we say, like the pressure that's on them. Anyone got anything else to add to Ayr? Or unremarkable?
No, I was just going to say, I think they'll be decent.
Aye.
I agree with Graeme. I actually think Scott Brown's going to be. I just have a feeling. I think he's going to do pretty well there.
I know you said before that you think. I know that he's got the whole hardband stick, but that's like complete personality.
Yeah.
He doesn't get the credit that he's due, like you said.
No, I think he's a lot smarter than a lot of people give him credit for, and I do think like he's got links at Hibs, he's got links at Celtic. Do you know what I mean? He's also a bit of a name. I think he'll be the kind of guy that a lot of players will probably quite fancy playing for. Yeah, I fancy them to do all right, actually.
I see a lot of Jimmy Nick, Scott Brown vibes and similarities that they've come in. They did what they had to do in the first sort of 6 months they were in, and now it's their team almost, and they can do what they want. I think the biggest concern for me with Ayr United is our own back four, because Anton Dowds was outstanding against Airdrie last season.
Mm.
He bullied Airdrie last season, and we've signed Airdrie centre half.
But yeah, I mean, did he do that well against you and Murray?
Well, the thing is, remember they had that cheat code centre forward, Dicko Akinyemi? Dicko Akinyemi, that's it. And he scored against every single team in Scotland apart from ours, which included a centre back pairing of Liam Dick and Adam Masson. So there's maybe things in it, but I think it pains me to say it, but I think they'll do well. It's been 40 odd years since we're in the top league. I don't think they'll do that well, but I think they'll be top four.
Yeah.
I think there's a few teams, and we'll obviously talk about this across the piece, that have got a good reason for optimism. And the league is going to be naturally very tight. And you can see a lot of teams coming in feeling very confident going in, but then it's the championship and it's naturally going to be very tight. And just a final point from me, I'm all aboard the Marco Roos hype train, reading Pie and Bovril. I'm doubled down on that, and I put that prediction in for as part of another thing that we're doing at the moment. But moving along, next team in the alphabet in terms of our order is going to be our nearest and dearest neighbours. So this is for Alan Douglas Mum, who said that he was excited to hear about what we had to say about them, along with our predictions for the Rovers. So, how are we doing in terms of Dunfermline Athletic? Who wants to kick us off for this rather interesting start to the season that they've had?
Of
course, you can laugh. You can laugh all you want, Carol.
Mehmet's atrocious. Like, he's not even, going to quote the Terrace podcast here, he's not even in the top 10 goalkeepers. He is terrible. Yeah, because he's shit.
He is definitely the best goalie at Dunfermline.
Yep, agreed.
Aye.
He was. That boy can't play.
That's what I mean. They've only got one.
I would say second best goalie at Dunfermline, maybe.
Sammy the Tammy.
Benny used to be pretty decent.
It's it's crazy to see the way they've got a feeling of a real banter year ahead of them, I think, with Dunfermline, and I think there's serious questions to be asked about the club itself, looking from the outside, and I think that's not even looking as like a rival, like ha-ha perspective. I think everyone across the piece is sort of saying, what's going on there? It just seems very, very off. You've got the German owners have came in, and the CEO Cook, and I think a lot of people are asking questions about what he's doing. A lot of the stuff that they're doing on social media at the moment is getting a lot of flack because there's so many questions about the signings that they're making, or failing to make, I should say. So yeah, and the League Cup campaign, it's bad enough that you lose 2-1 to Cove in a game that you shouldn't be winning, but then as well they went down to Forfar as well, was it? So I think that there's panic stations along the road.
I mean, it's something I was going to talk about. Obviously, I've got Livingston, so we'll talk about them in a bit. But I mean, that group, it was the only group without a Premier League team in it. Do you know what I mean? On paper, it was by far and away the easiest group. They had Cove, Forfar, Livingston, and Spartans, and they finished fourth. Do you know what I mean? And they finished, to be fair, they only finished fourth because Cove played in an eligible player and were docked points.
It's
brutal. Like they literally finished bottom of that group. They are rank rotten.
I think
I am here for it.
Me too, 100%. It's
McPake's not going to smile this season, is he? He's going to be a grumpy git in that dugout, isn't he?
He's not going to last the season.
I don't think he will either. I think that
I don't think they can afford to pay him off, though. I think they're stuck with him.
I don't think it's a question of paying him off. I think he'll walk. I think he's going to get so frustrated with what they're at. Because you've even got Benedictus coming out in press conferences saying, like, we need more bodies in.
Yeah.
When you've got your captain coming out in a presser saying that, you've got to ask serious questions about where you're at. But yet their board have said...
I don't think they're done in terms of player going out the door either, because there's a fair bit of interest in Otto from down south. And if somebody comes in with money, the Germans will bite their hand off. They'll take it. So there's a very good chance that they'll lose him before the window's done.
I did say that after the last derby, like coming out of Starks Park. I can't remember who I was talking to, but I was saying that like they're 100% a selling club now. Like any youth prospects that come through that are going to look decent, you're going to get a team in England that's going to offer maybe a high 5-figure, low 6-figure sum. And at this level, you don't turn those down because you go through a season. And a good example is probably Dylan Tate. Like, you ask a question of why you're selling him when he's hot property like we did, but then if it doesn't go on to anything, you think, oh, we've won a watch. So, it's...
Am I right in saying as well that they're already out the Fife Cup?
They did, got knocked out by...
St Andrews.
St Andrews? Aye.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Apparently they're a really good side, though.
Aye.
When do they play Falkirk? Is that early?
In the Fife Cup? Falkirk would love to be in the Fife Cup.
No, I'm just thinking that
No,
perhaps, if they've got
It
Falkirk,
will be, that's the derby, so it's usually end of August.
if it's at East End, maybe that's going to give them a wee bit of bounce to go and get some loan deals, because that's the only way I can see them getting money in.
I mean, to be fair, Falkirk, it's the second game of the season for them. But John McGlynn's record against Dunfermline as well. I know that Falkirk are on a high with promotion. That's it's going to put pressure on one side, one way or the other. Scott, what are your thoughts about Dunfermline?
Well, I actually messaged a mate of mine who used to be a season ticket holder at East End, and this is the first season he was not a season ticket holder, and he's just going to pick and choose games that he's going to, and he says he sits in that northwest stand and all, and he says there's quite a few of them doing the same. Like they've got McPake, the board, and the Germans all on extremely thin ice now, and it's just the fact that it's good. I genuinely think if they were to go, just say if they were bottom or within the bottom sort of 3 places until about October, that's going to get extremely toxic there. Like that. Yeah. Not only will McPake possibly like just walk, I genuinely think you'll start seeing crowds sub less than 2,000 at East End, and that's including away fans. So I do think that this is going to be, well, for us, it'll be quite funny to watch, but at the same time, it's just the fact that, like, obviously I've got mates that are Pars fans and stuff like that, we'll have a laugh, but at the same time, you didn't want to see somebody's club absolutely, like, shit in the bed and just no caring. It genuinely looks like they didn't care. And part of that, I think, is St. Pauli got promoted to the Bundesliga, so they're not going to care about a team in the Scottish Championship now, are they?
I don't think they cared in the first place. I do not think they cared in the first place. I think that's a whole hoo-ha that's... You see, like, stuff like this. I don't know if it was like their trust head or supporters liaison after they like just lost the derby or something like that, and they're over on a fact-finding mission to Germany. And you're like, come on. That just comes across very, very... The optics on it were very, very poor. But I think that's enough talk about Dunfermline, and hopefully it is a season full of laughter at them from our point of view, I'm sure.
A few good cartoons just to rattle them, that would be nice.
Yeah, well,
maybe get them in the Scottish Cup, I know.
Glorious.
Well, Carol, we'll turn to you next. We're going to head across the Kincardine Bridge and over to Grangemouth now, where newly promoted Invincibles and ex-Rovers selection. So who have they got? John McGlynn, Paul Smith. They've got our ex-physio, Blair. They've also got Spencer, Tate, Lang,
Ross,
Ethan
Lang.
Good
Sean
seven.
Mackey
Sure, there's
still
some,
there.
like,
Tom
yeah,
Mackey, yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, it's, I mean, relatively speaking, been quite a quiet summer for Falkirk in terms of the business, and with them coming up and having that sort of promotion bounce, and historically new teams have always tended to come up and do quite well. How are you feeling about them coming back in after their 5-year exile into the Championship?
Well, with their unbeaten run last season, they're the scalp that everyone's going to want to have, isn't it? You're going to want to be the team that beats them first and do it. It's that unbeaten league scalp is what everyone's after, I think. Listening to the Terrace podcast, looking at some Falkirk news, there seems to be there's no money. That seems to be the running theme, that there's no money. And knowing how John McGlynn is with injuries and stuff, I think come Christmas it could be a little bit dicey for them, because I don't think they're going to have the depth of squad to compete. Yeah.
Because even at the start initially, there's quite a few players that I know that I think Tom Lang's out injured at the moment.
Tom Lang's out, yeah.
Callum Morrison, who was absolutely outstanding last season for them. I know that he's a player that I know that I think it was Craig Telfer said on the Terrace podcast, like he's the type of player that will go through peaks and troughs, but when it's peaks, he goes very, very high. They've obviously got that large ex-Rafe contingent there as well. But yeah, just looking at them from the perspective that Dunfermline came up and they only lost one game when they were in League One. So do you think that that's maybe a bit of a warning as well for Falkirk, that there can be quite a big jump between the Championship and League One? I know that they've obviously toiled to get out of it. But yeah, do you think that's maybe a bit of a warning sign for them as well, that they've kept a lot of the same players, but looking ahead to that?
Yeah, I think they've kept a lot of the same players who are great first division players, but I think in the Championship, as we've seen, is like they're not. I don't think they're going to survive. I think they're just they'll do great. They'll have some really good games. Hopefully, hump Dunfermline's 4 or 5-0, 7 or 8. But I just don't think they're going to make that step up. Like we found when we went to the playoffs with Ross County, that step up, it's like boys versus men. And I think that, I liked Ethan Ross, and I hope as a player he is the player that everyone expected him to be when we signed him. But will he might be great in the first division, but is he going to be the star of the Championship? I don't think so. I think they're a great first division team, and it's good that they're back up after 5 years, but I don't think they've got the depth to compete for the top. They might be in top 4, top 5. I don't think they'll go straight back down, but yeah, they've just not got that depth or finances to have a good squad come Christmas.
The signings certainly don't
They brought in another goalkeeper.
Yeah,
Jamie, they signed Snedden for Partick Thistle, didn't they?
And that's an interesting one. I know it was touched on in the draft, because I think, was it Callum took him? And we've obviously slaughtered Callum about
was
his
he
draft.
a shit player? Yes, Callum took him, yes.
He's not even the number one.
He couldn't get a game for Partick Thistle over David Mitchell last season, which I think is a really bizarre thing, because I think he's one of those players that's had that high point when he scored up at Cove, and then maybe that's like kind of from the outside you look at that and you think, oh, goalkeeper must be decent, but then is he actually that good if he's not getting a game?
But I mean,
was it last season they didn't? Sorry, Blair.
No, I was going to say they're marquee signings. You're looking at Michael McKenna, who is a great signing in the Championship 5 years ago. And he's still a good player, don't get me wrong. He's one of those players I always wanted us to go after. And he was a player that I knew McGlynn would have gone for. He's a really McGlynn type of player. But, do you know what I mean? Coming up and trying to kind of acquit yourself in the Championship, he's not really. I mean, he's just been relegated with Arbroath. And then you've got Dylan Tate and Ethan Ross, both of whom I don't think there was many Rovers fans were choking for them to come back in. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. I think it's interesting hearing Carol saying that. I've not seen an awful lot of chat around Falkirk, but the lack of money certainly makes sense when you see the signings.
Yeah, 100%. I know that John McGlynn was in the press sort of saying, unless there's external investment that comes forward, we're not going to be bringing anyone else in other than what we've got, and we'll run with the squad that we've got. To effectively, it's I think he's trying to temper expectations and saying look, I'd love to go for a title challenge, but for now, aim of the game is just consolidation and try to make the playoffs up the
I
right
think
end of
that's
the
sensible.
table.
I think there's levels. There's levels in the championship, yeah, and I think we were 2 seasons ago at the level that Falkirk were going to be at. You're probably going to sit in the middle.
Yeah.
A good run, you'll go in the top 4. If you have a disaster, you're maybe going to slip down at the bottom bit. But the players that they've got are players who have done it at League One or who are competent championship players. The same as probably what we had. But then we made the step up last season where we got guys who had actually won the championship. So we've moved up that next level. I don't think they're at that next level yet. I think they'll be fine. I don't see them in any danger of going down. I think like a lot of promoted teams will have a flyer first quarter, and then that'll see them through, and they'll be fine. But I don't see them getting that 5th, maybe pushing 4th level. I think they're just below that now. I think give them this season. I think next season they could maybe go that extra stage, but not just now.
See, the one caveat
They're going to be very leaky at the back.
Yeah. The one caveat I would say is they probably filled their team in League One full of championship players. So it's not, sometimes you look at a team and it is genuinely a team of League One players who've come up. I think there was a lot of players who took a step down. Brad Spencer, for example, is not a League One footballer. He just isn't. So taking a step down to kind of get them out of the championship kind of made sense. It's one of them. It could go either way. It wouldn't shock me if they ended up 4th. If he gets a good enough run until the clocks change, and then McGlynn shits himself. But you never know. You really don't with that Falkirk team. It could go one way or the other.
I think for me, Falkirk look like a team where they're in the process of transitioning from the players that McGlynn's brought in and used himself. And I know that he's offered some players extended contracts that were maybe sort of like, you look from the outside and you're a bit like... So probably a good example of that's maybe someone like Aidan Nesbitt, where he's like a low-end, sort of you feel championship player. Played for Morton in the Air, I think, for a good few years. I might be wrong, but I might be making that up. But it wouldn't be the first time on this podcast.
Because he came to Celtic, didn't he?
I think he did, yeah. And you do sort of feel like, okay, over the next few years, he'll probably phase those types out and replace them with like more established championship players when the finances become available. But yeah, I fully agree with you, Blair, and the likes of like Tom Lang and Brad Spencer, definite ones that have gone down and taken the step down because they've seen it. And he did that with us. We have players where they've sort of looked and they've probably felt when he was in the championship or when we were in League One, they've gone down with the understanding of like, yeah, we're going to try and have a crack on this and see how we get on. So we'll move on. We'll go along the far end of the M8 now. Greenock Morton awaits us, where, Blair, you're going to talk us through big physical Morton, who appear to be moving away to wee dainty Morton. So, Blair, talk us through what to expect from Greenock Morton.
So the exact opposite of Falkirk in that they've signed a load of kind of unknown quantities. Like, for me, that's the thing with the Falkirk team. You look at it and you go, I know who he is, I know who he is, and I know who he is. I was going through this Morton team, and there's a few names that kind of pop out. So summer signings, Owen Muffet from Blackpool, who was in with the Pars last year, who was always one of their better players when we played them, and was a big difference maker when he took him off. So they've signed him, who I think will kick on and will probably do quite well for them, I would think. The one that kind of stood out in terms of a name is J. Emmanuel Thomas, or Jet, as he is affectionately known. And it's not the sexy gladiator, unfortunately. It's one of them.
Or the horse of Blue Peter.
Or the horse of Blue Peter, indeed, for those old enough to remember. I feel like he's the most Football Manager signing I have ever seen in my life. Like, he's a name, and he is literally just a name, because I had a wee look at his figures. He's only ever hit double figures in a season once in his entire career, and that was a good long time ago. And in the last 7 years, does anyone want to take a stab at how many goals J. Emmanuel Thomas has scored in his footballing career in the last 7 years? Bearing in mind, he had a season with Livingston, season with Aberdeen. He also had a season out in India. He was in India last year, the year before, and he's been at Kidderminster Harriers most recently.
He certainly
7?
got one because he scored against us at Starks Park when we knocked Aberdeen out in the League
And
Cup.
he had a purple patch for Livingston, didn't he? I don't think it was a very
Well,
long purple patch, but
How purple is purple? Because Carol's actually
goals
bang on the money.
Is she?
7. 7 goals. No, sorry, that's not right. I'm the wrong way down. 10 goals. 10 goals
Sorry.
in 7 years. I'm sorry, that's not a good return. They have, however, picked up. This is one that I had to look up because I didn't know him. He's coming from Wales, a guy called Jordan Davies, who they've signed from Connah's Quay, who scored 19 in 32 last season in Wales, and 15 in 34 the season before. Now, I know it's Welsh football, but he's got a bit of goal-scoring kind of pedigree, so they're maybe pinning a bit of hopes on him. And then, last but not least, before I move on and to their manager, is Lamar, as I'm going to call him, Lamar Maniduku Reynolds, who is the most Maniduku signing I've seen in years. He has played for umpteen teams. He scored 4 goals in the last 36 games last season. And actually, he scored 4 goals in 36 last season, including a hat-trick. The other goal was the goal that...
Daniels.
Yeah, well, that's it. But he's the guy that scored for Maidstone United when they knocked Ipswich out the FA Cup. So that's the goal he's dining out on, big time. But I had a look, he's played 198 professional games and has scored 21 goals in his career. Never really played at a great level. They seem to think he's some kind of acquisition. I'm not seeing it in his figures. Maybe there's a better player in there. What I will say, I had a wee look on socials and stuff. Really well liked by the supporters of the teams that he's been at. So there's maybe a bit of something in there with him. But then you look at who they've lost. Lewis Strapp's away, George Oakley's away, Robbie Crawford's away, Jai Katongo, Robbie Muirhead. You're going, that's big physical Morton gone. I mean, they've still got Carthorse at the back.
Could not believe they offered him a new contract. I think it was universal when we're saying that. Like, just
wild.
Bizarre. It's absolutely bizarre.
They finished 4th in their League Cup group behind St Johnstone, Alloa and East Fife. The only team they finished ahead of was Brechin. Like, that's a rotten League Cup campaign. And the final note, I've basically written down a lot of unknowns. Like, there's so many players they've brought in who you just don't know how they're going to do. They could hit the ground running and be great, and they could be absolutely rotten. But my final note was that their manager is a baboon in a tracksuit.
All very, very agreeable points, Blair.
From Matalan.
Matalan, baboon in a tracksuit.
I think... Go on, Carol.
I'm going to say, and Dylan Corr as well is like signing him and then he's way out injured.
Yeah, that's a shame to see though. Like,
I know.
He's dislocated shoulder twice since the summer. Like 3 times this year. It's just really rough for the lad.
He needs surgery as well, apparently.
Yeah, well, he's going to be out for a good while. It's. I noticed a lot of the Morton fans commenting during the League Cup when I was reading sort of stuff on Pie and Bovril. What they've been doing is they've actually the lad that they signed from Wales. The boy that they got from Wales, Jordan Davies, he's a forward, and that Lamar Reynolds had been seen more as a winger. So what does Dougie do?
I read his interview when he signed, and he was talking about he was playing mostly as wing back. He'd been playing as a right wing back when he was at Maidstone, apparently.
Well, Dougie Imrie, in his infinite wisdom, has decided to swap them about, so he's playing the striker on the wing and the winger up top. But yeah, this is the man that continues to offer contracts to Kirk Broadfoot, who everyone can see is absolutely done at this level of football, and yet persists in
that Lamar Reynolds as well. He did say he was on trial at Livingston a good few years ago when Dougie Imrie was a coach, and I'm trying to think back. They must have been in League One at the time.
I'm not sure about that, but I know that Livingston did bring in Liam Soule, who was also at Maidstone. Yeah. And allegedly, and from what I've heard, those two are very good pals. So Soule signed for Livingston, and Reynolds has came up from Morton. So I think they'll be likely together. So yeah, I think it'll be Morton or one of them and Dunfermline are the two that you've automatically. I think people have sort of sussed out.
Robbie in trouble,
in trouble territory, especially moving away from. I found it very, very funny because, again, I frequent by overall read the threads and the like and post on it from time to time, that the whole narrative from the Morton fans over the last 2 years has been, we're no big and we're no physical. Like, other teams will play the same football as us. And they used to get really, really upset at the notion that they were rustling jimmies, as I put. Like, going out, winding clubs up, getting record numbers of bookings, very low sendings off, balls up to Muirhead and Oakley, and just generally poor for large parts of seasons, but also going on unbeaten runs. That's kind of been sort of like Morton's season over the last few years. Then as soon as they lose these players, the whole narrative changes to, we've lost our identity, why are we going for these players? We need to stop this nonsense, we need to go back to what was working. Dougie Emery's lost his identity in terms of football. So yeah, I feel that Morton are the only fan-owned club in this division who, I think that really is a hindrance for them. And as admirable as it is, you're always going to struggle in terms of things like investment if you're fan-owned compared to every other team who's maybe got external sort of support or are looking at different revenues. But yeah, I if I was a Morton fan, I think I would be looking very worriedly about like the business that other clubs are and doing. And I know Dunfermline are in a crisis at the moment, but you feel that there is potential for them to sort of mitigate that if they do, say they sell Otto, and then they can get some money in and then maybe bring in a few extra bodies. And generally speaking, Dunfermline, you would say they've got a better quality squad than Morton, in my opinion.
I don't think there's a lot in it this season, I've got to be honest. I really don't.
With the players that I would see your perspective in terms of it. But yeah, just for me, I think there's a few sort of brighter sparks at the Dunfermline team, the likes of Otto, maybe Matty Todd, Kane Ritchie Hosler when they get on form.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think for both of those
Jet,
two,
though.
Yeah, but Jet. That signing just reminds me of when we brought in James. What's his name? Isma's a good example. But yeah, just the type of players that come in. Who was it? Jerome. Joel Thomas. Joel Thomas. Aye, very much like a signing like that. You heard the name a few years ago. He might have been good then, but he's not really good now. Like, just seems. But
I don't even think Jet was good then, though. I mean, I know this will come back to haunt me. He will batter us, but like, he just feels like a championship manager signing. Like, I've heard of him. I'm going to sign him.
Michael O'Halloran at Dunfermline as well. That's another one.
I do think they'll have a better season than Dunfermline because I think Dougie Emery will get a tune out of those players that McPeak won't at his. And I think it's the whole siege mentality thing. I think you get a Morton.
Yeah.
Like, no one likes
this. They also won't have the crowd on them.
And it kind of galvanises them. Because even last year, they were honking at the start of the season. And it was almost like the whole siege thing. And then they went on that amazing run. And I think it'll be the same this season. I think Emery can get a squad together and work for him. It's maybe no pretty, maybe not the best players. But I think he's the guy that can actually get a tune out of some of these guys where I don't think McPeak can, to be honest.
I think Green at Morton will have the dressing room and Dunfermline will lose it. I think McCaig will lose the dressing room and the fans, and Green at Morton will still keep that. As much as Emery is a baboon in a tracksuit, he's got the players on his side.
Him and Gareth in their interviews. So we'll move on now, and we move on to a club who'd been... I was worried we would have relatively little to say about them because we played them in the League Cup, but by God, Hamilton Accies have stood up and delivered for us today. So effectively, it's came out today that the Hamilton players have refused to train.
And manager.
And manager? Oh, well,
yeah.
Been added in there. So, yeah, disarray at whatever they're calling their stadium now, as the players and manager refused to go to training because they've been unpaid their wages. So, Scott, you were going to pick up Accies. Do you want to start on the field or do you want to start off the field? I'll leave it to you.
Well, I mean, we're, half an hour in, not even halfway through the league, and we're at Banter Club number 3 already this season. So this could be... I think we've basically hit our bottom 3 in the league anyway already. But no, I mean, as you say, like, I was making a few notes for it earlier today before the announcement, and it was just rumours at the time that there was potential that they were not training today. So, aye, that was just mental to read that was happening. But at the same time, apparently, they're claiming that the game will still go ahead on Saturday and there's not going to be an issue. But I think if your players are deliberately walking out, and now that we've heard the manager has as well, I think there's got to be deeper problems than just they're claiming it was a late bank transfer or something and it'll be not too long. I think they'll have been told that
Is it home or away this weekend?
they're at home.
Home.
Home to Ayr. So Ayre's
And there's season ticket holders that apparently haven't even got their season tickets and everything yet, and they've got, less than 48 hours to
So
go.
will security be paid? Will catering be paid for Saturday?
Unfortunately, I'm not on that
off-field
board,
stuff?
and I'm glad I'm not, but I put it this way, I'll be surprised if the game doesn't go ahead with issues all through the day, because I think it's going to be an absolute nightmare, and I'm just glad that we're not even involved in that, because I can imagine even for Ayr, this is going to be an issue for them. They'll train as they normally do, but see tomorrow, if they go, well, are we playing, are we... Obviously, Scott Brown will get them prepared as if they're going to Hamilton to play, but I can imagine that game, the players will have it in the back of their minds, are we going to actually play? So
I think...
away, before we start the season, this is like an absolute shocker for Hamilton.
It's... To add to that, Scott, I think that if you look back to the game where we had to play at Ayr with Ryan Stevenson in goals, I think that a lot of people look at that. Ayr toiled that night, and that, I know it wasn't a good Ayr team. They got relegated bottom of the league that season. But yeah, when you look at that, I think that a lot of fans go in and they think, oh, this is a club in crisis. We'll smash them 5 or 6-0. And inevitably it never happens, because I don't know if they field a bunch of under-19s, then you're looking like, right, okay, this is an opportunity for me to go out and do a job, or let's make sure that we don't get ourselves embarrassed. Same, I know that they went down eventually, but Edinburgh City last season, they played Falkirk and they got that draw against the odds, and yeah, just that sort of siege mentality.
To be fair, Falkirk got the draw against the odds with that dodgy penalty.
That's true. So yeah, just a very... there's a lot of big questions. I think the first one would be, how come, if it's just a one-off with sort of international banking, how come the players are walking out just after a one-off? I think you would also point out, sort of looking towards stuff like, with regards to things like season tickets, as you say before, a lot of issues with that. So asking, apparently they're using fan base, but for anyone buying a season ticket, outside of that, they've got to pay cash, including disabled fans. They had a disabled fan apparently getting to the stadium, asking to buy a season ticket, and getting told that they needed to go to a cash machine to take out money to then come back to the stadium to buy the season ticket. If they've got the funds for the season ticket, how come they're having a cash flow right now? Because you would think that now is going to be a good time in terms of that. And on top of that also as well, their fans are sort of saying, well, we've not even announced our away kit yet as well. Like, there's so many bits at this point of the season that you would expect your club to be ready and prepared, but they're not at all. It's just, it's like Inverness have given them a wee loan of the banter baton and just let them pick that up for them. But yeah, just in general, who wants to chip in with their thoughts about Aki's and what's going on there?
You don't walk out if you give them slack. If you're happy with your team and you're happy with your club, you don't walk out on them. You would stay and train. So there's something else going on, because that's...
Would that be their first wage if these guys have just signed?
Allegedly it's 2 weeks late, and I don't...
Right.
Some of the players have been paid apparently.
Well, wouldn't it, maybe?
Yeah. Win bonuses potentially as well. I know that they've not won any games. But yeah, it's just a really bizarre set of circumstances. I mean, it's ironic looking back now, because the social media posts that they had for Ian Latto was the one that pointed this out. The social media post that they put up with the clip of still game for Todorov signing for them was of Tan paying over the odds for a car in still game, and now they're skin. It's just a very bizarre set of circumstances to be encountering on this side. They've done a lot of business that I think Ollie Shaw's like really the one that's sort of attracted a lot of the attention. Albeit Big Kev was more than a match for him last Saturday, based on what we've seen. So we'll leave the playing side for Accies for now. Moving back along the M8, I'll pick up Livingston. So I think that probably for me, the summary for Livingston would be that as a team, they're really hard to predict. They got knocked out initially in the League Cup in a group, as you said before, Blair. I think that was the easiest group. I think that's probably going to be a consensus, but they still got knocked out. They ended on 9 points, but again, similar to us, I think that the goal difference just wasn't enough.
And in the final, Cove, isn't it?
Yeah, Spartans on the final day it was.
Spartans, sorry, yeah.
Aye. So on the final day, they just needed to get the result against them and lost. Real mix of signings from Davy Martindale, who's no longer going to be complaining about the lowest budget in the league. I think he's already on record saying that they've maybe got about the 4th or 5th biggest budget this season. Ollie Green has seemingly been one, listening to, I think it was the Scottish Football Fans Forum podcast, basically said that Ollie Green's been a player, he's came in from Hull, that's looked very good. A few familiar faces scattered in. Robbie Muirhead, Lewis Smith, Rhys McAlears came back up from Tranmere. So I think everyone at the moment, Livingston are very, very hard placed in terms of gauging where they'll finish for the table. So I've genuinely no idea whether they'll be one of the teams that are going to be challenging for the league, whether they'll be mid-table. Just a real difficult one to predict how they'll do. But I don't think, based on that League Cup, that they're going to be anything to worry about. I think
they only conceded that one goal. That 1-0 defeat to Cove was the only goal they conceded. I know they weren't really tested. Forfar and Forfar, Dunfermline and Cove. But yeah, I mean, I think Ryan McGowan's a really good signing at this level. To be fair,
that's a good point.
I think he's definitely a decent pickup. But again, they've lost. I mean, Nubley and Anderson, Holt.
Obalai,
yeah. I mean, I think Martindale's a decent enough manager, isn't he? That's the one thing they've kind of got in their corner. I think he'll get something out of them, but they're just, again, it's a really unknown quantity, isn't it?
I could see Livy this season. Sorry, I could see Livy this season finishing fairly high. Now, that's only if guys like, see if they start the season really well and are top after 3 games, and Stephen Kelly's been an absolute baller in them 3 games, he'll be signed by an SPL team, guaranteed, before the 31st August. Now, if he leaves, they're not finishing second, because he is the best player in this division by a wee bit ahead of somebody like Sam Stanton. Like that, genuinely, I just don't see anybody in the Championship as good as Stephen Kelly right now. And I'm surprised he's actually still at Livy. I thought somebody like, even St Johnstone, or... I thought, to be honest, I thought he would suit somebody like Dundee, Stephen Kelly. I think he would fit right into... When you look at somebody like Luke McCowan and what he did... And Luke McCowan's now wearing the captain's armband in pre-season. Like, I genuinely think Stephen Kelly would fit right in at Dundee, and again, I still wouldn't rule out a move like that to happen. And yeah, I would go ahead and say that if he stays there, Livy will definitely be playoffs. If he's not there, I could see them being mid-table and not really doing much.
You say that he's the best player in the league, but you've not seen the man, the myth, the legend yet, have you? You've not seen Aaron Reid.
And we're not going to.
Aye.
Oh, no.
Graeme, what were you going to say? I think you were going to come in with a point.
It was just, as Blair pointed out, I think Livingston will be stuffy. It's just in their nature. I think they'll be stuffy. They'll be difficult to score against. And I don't think they'll score the most goals in the league, but I think they'll probably have the best defence in the league. And it's going to be moments of magic to beat them. And if they get into trouble, Martindale will do as usual. He'll get a big handful of shit players for down south, throw it at the wall, and a couple of them will be good. And no doubt they'll be 6'4". Yeah, it's just what he'll do. He'll just... It's a lot of averages. If you pick 10 players, at least 2 of them are going to be half decent, I'd imagine, and that's what will happen with them. But
it
see,
works, eh?
But the parachute payment, right? Do they get a bumper parachute payment because only one team's come down?
I don't know about that, but they do get a UEFA solidarity payment, I think it's called, because of players in the Euros, I think it is, or something along those. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I've seen like information about it online sort of a wee while ago. So that money's gone to funding Robbie Muirhead, and his started in the League Cup really well actually. Robbie Muirhead, I know he's scored a few goals already, so it wouldn't surprise me to see him do as usual, where he looks absolutely garbage for large chunks of the season, but turns into prime Didier Drogba against us and just lashes in volleys left, right and centre. Scott, back to yourself. We're going to head along to Glasgow now. Partick Thistle. Obviously, where Livy have signed a whole load of unknowns, Partick are the team that have probably signed the most recognisable faces in the Championship. So, yeah, very impressive additions along at Firhill. What have you made of that their summer recess?
Yeah, I mean, as you say, Thistle have basically just signed a load of players that are probably top-end Championship, but no quite good enough for the Premiership. I mean, Kyle Turner, that's him in a nutshell. He's genuinely, I don't think he will make the Premiership cut, but he's arguably one of the top sort of 5 to 10 players in the Championship whenever he's in it. I think, obviously, we got to see him up close last season for 5 or 6 months, and we got to see when he did get a run of games what he could do. And I still think he chipped in. I think it was about 5 assists or something for us whilst he was there. He would be their sort of marquee signing, I would say, but they also brought in guys like Logan Chalmers, Lee Ashcroft, Robbie Crawford came in for Morton, who was previously at Partick as well. So he kind of solidifies that midfield. I mean, if you're going by wingers alone, their team's a joke, like on paper, because they've got Fitzpatrick, Chalmers, Dan Mackay. Lawless is injured now, and unfortunate for them, they expect him to be out till about February because it was an ACL that he got at the end of the season. So that'll be a big loss to them. But they've got like 4 other wingers anyway, so I don't think they'll be exactly short in that department. And then they've got arguably still the best striker in the league now that obviously a team that we'll go on to speak about lost their best striker. But I think when you've got somebody like Brian Graeme leading the line and you've got wingers like that could be feeding him crosses and balls into the box, I could see Graeme yet again arguably there for top scorer again this season and really sort of taking them. I'll be shocked if Partick are not in the playoffs. Like, they've just got that sort of...
They're going for it, aren't they? They're going for it.
They're made to be in that playoffs just with that team. Their only issue right now is actually a position that some of our fans have been moaning about is they've got no right back on their books. And they're playing that Wasiri Williams at right back now. And he's okay, but like he's not a right back. And so I just don't see... I'm surprised that they've actually waited this long. But I think it was Telfer and Sean that were talking about it on the terrace, saying that what if a team like Partick are just waiting on like Hibs going, right, which one of our young right backs are we sending out on loan? Because they've got 2 that one of them will make the squad and one of them will go out on loan. Because they've got Megwa and Whittaker. So the 2 of them are definitely not going to be kept. Whether one of them might go to Partick on loan or something, I don't know. But yeah, that's pretty much the only position they've not got somebody for. Everybody else, and they've got guys like Harry Milne still there as well. So, all round, Partick will be thereabouts again for the title in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I was in my notes. I did put sort of I think there's a valid question about whether Partick have a key man dependency up top, to use pensions and insurance speak in this podcast, where they've sort of got one man that does the job in Brian Graeme, and he's their centre forward. But what happens if he has a really serious injury, for example, and how they address that? Because I think he's guaranteed to score goals. He's the type of player, he just doesn't stop scoring. He's started the League Cup very, very strongly. I know that it's been mentioned before about across the board that he had that miss in the playoffs against us in the dying stages at extra time, and you think that's your chance to send your team into the final, and he's blazed it over the bar. But yeah, I think it's natural to expect him to be reaching the sort of 20 goal mark if he's fully fit. But what happens if that doesn't come to pass? Lee Ashcroft, you mentioned him there. In that game against Clyde, I think everyone's sort of seen Lee Ashcroft and held him up as being like the option to go for clubs at the championship level. But now it's kind of looking, I think, a bit of sort of the outside looking in. You're kind of thinking, well, he injured his hamstring last, and he just does not look the same since coming back based on the footage off that. Logan Dunkey ran him ragged for the second goal in particular, but also as well for the opener. He had a sort of 45-yard back pass that went into the net.
You know, he reminded me in that goal that he couldn't catch the boy. He reminded me of Keith Watson last season. Somebody trying to catch up with somebody, and he almost actually looked like when he's running, worried about a hammy that might go again. Mm-hmm. That's what it looked like to me anyway, from the video footage.
Yeah, and again, I know that we've spoken about Livingston and less so about Dunfermline, but like these are all teams that have lost to League Two sides in the Cup, which is quite an important point to make. That I know that we came in for a bit of criticism about how we've gone out the Cup, maybe could have scored more against Stranraer. Still got the results in those games, so yeah, it's. I think that for Thistle, there was obviously that controversy about how they went out the League Cup with the admin error on behalf of the government body using the app. A lot of speculation in the media, less so from Partick about replaying the game, but I think that would have opened up a whole can of worms. I don't think on Partick's side that there's not been too much made of it. I think that they mentioned in their statement about how it was addressed by the government body, but I think they're very reluctant to actually talk about it because I think it just opens a whole can of worms. If you're Motherwell and you say someone like Lennon Miller does an ACL in a replay game, who's taking accountability for that? There's also the fact that Partick could have dropped down a position if they'd replayed the game and lost, if Motherwell had taken on 3 points, and what happens with the prize money. But yeah, Partick are they're probably the most known side in the division. I think a lot of the narrative has been really pitched as being Rafe against Partick for the title. So yeah, Graeme, Blair, Carol, just start off with you, Graeme, just your thoughts on Partick.
I think if you finish above them, you win the league. However, I will caveat that I think they've got a mentality issue. I don't think they laid a glove on Dundee United. Apart from the playoff, they never laid a glove on us. And that's how there was such a big gap between them and us. That was your 14-point gap. Essentially, they didn't do anything against Dundee United. So I don't know if it's the bigger teams they play, there's an issue there, I don't know. So are they going to be better off because there's no outright favourite this year? I think the injury to David Mitchell might be a blessing because I thought he's always been a dodgy keeper, and I don't think he's a league-winning keeper. So this guy they've brought in might be the difference. But I'd expect them to be. They're going to be top 3 anyway, and I think if you do finish above them, you've got a hand on the trophy.
Carol, just for you, what are you making of Partick Thistle, their summer business, and sort of going into this league campaign?
They're going for it. They've had 2 chances at the playoff the last 2 seasons. They're not going to give up on a third. They're going for it. Like Graeme said, I think if you finish behind them, you're in the playoffs. They're going for it. They're either going for the league or they're going for the playoff final. They're not going to fail again, I don't think. On paper. I mean, I think they might stumble mentally, but I think on paper, they're going for it.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to disagree about that. And Blair, what's your 2 cents on Thistle?
Yeah, I'd echo what's been said. I think if the squads stay exactly as they are right now, I think they're probably going to be favourites actually for it. My concern, I know we'll get to us in due course, but I think they'll score goals, and I think that's definitely a concern for us. But no, I think they'll be pretty good actually.
Good stuff. So we'll stay in Glasgow just for the next part now, which is the final team that's not playing in our game this Saturday, which is Partick Thistle. Partick Thistle, Queen's Park, that'll need to get edited out. So yeah, again, probably one of the most enigmatic teams in the league for me. 2 major outgoings in the summer was that Rory Payton went on to Port Vale and Alex Bannon got sold off. Those 2 brought in them a combined figure of 250 grand. And in came probably the more notable names of Cammy Kerr, Roddy McGregor, and Nicholas Udger, all of whom were at Cataly Thistle during the latter stages of last season. Two of whom, in particular, did not really get much game time under Duncan Ferguson and probably feel they've got a bit of a point to prove. And then our good old friend, Zach Rudden, is also joined in place of Peyton up top. Really, it's been a bit of I think there's a lot of reason for enthusiasm with them on the pitch. In terms of just the way that they're going to be likely to have Grant Savory back at some point this season. He was a huge reason for why they were so close in challenging Dundee before for the league title, albeit I think still question marks about how soon he'll be back. But then off the pitch, they are a bit of a farce. They've had the situation with Lesser Hampden, where, again, they've done their whole racket where it's been a case of, we'll play at Lesser Hampden for a certain number of games, and then they were saying, oh, but we're going to switch to playing back at Hampden after the Scotland Internationals. And then Rangers, of course, have their own clusterfuck at Ibrox, I'll say. And it's a case that a stand's been incomplete at Ibrox. Rangers are now playing at Hampden Park, and Queens have been graciously accepting their way of putting it. So yeah, very, very hard one to see how Queens will do. They had a very poor season last season by their own standards. I think that naturally, I don't think Zach Rudden is going to get anywhere near the same number of goals as Rory Payton. They scored 16 goals across 4 games, but only 1 came for Rudden in the League Cup. I feel like they'll be looking to guys like Dom Thomas again for being threats going forward. But really, other than that, if I was to put them in a position in the league table, I think at best I can only really see mid-table. I can't see them having the firepower to really get beyond that. And just overall, not really sold on them completely as a club. I think they'll have enough to see off the likes of Dunfermline, Morton and Accies, but in general, I wouldn't really be too threatened by them as such. So yeah, anyone got any thoughts to add in terms of Queen's Park? Scott?
Yeah, I just think that they'll do extremely well to be not involved sort of in that bottom few teams, especially the fact they've lost Rory Payton, who I think got 17 goals in the league or something, a bit of that anyway last season. You're certainly not going to get 17 goals out of Zach Rudden. I just can't see that. So straight away, they're going to need Dom Thomas to be scoring at least double what he got last season to be even talking about not being relegated, basically. I just don't... They were scoring goals in the League Cup, which actually was a little bit surprising. I mean, they won, I think, 6-0 at the weekend, and then they beat, I think, Elgin in like 4-0 as well. But again, these are teams that are not even...
5-0.
Was it 5-0?
5-0 for Peter. No, against Peterhead. So it was 3. There was 3 games that they scored 4 and 6.
But then when they came up against a team that was either of their quality or higher, they got scudded themselves. They got beat 5-1 at Easter Road. So
5-1.
I think that not that they're going to get scudded in the Championship. I just think when they start playing against teams of their level, if not better, they might start to struggle and actually start to struggle score goals. I just think this League Cup, it throws up every year that teams think that they're really good or that they're really shit, and it turns out to be pretty much the opposite. And they didn't end up doing what the League Cup's been telling you. So I think they are. I think Queen's Park are actually the toughest one to call this season out of the whole Championship, other than Livy. They're the toughest one. Just the fact that I just don't know where their goals are going to come from. You're on mute.
This is going to be a real work for editing. I know, another edit. Blair, what are your thoughts about Queen's Park and just in general, just about the whole Hampden situation as well?
Oh, I mean, the Hampden thing's a farce, isn't it? It's like, it's hard because they've got absolutely no sympathy for a club that have deliberately built a stadium that's too small for themselves. Like, I don't understand it. I don't understand any of it. I don't get why they did it. I don't know what they thought was going to happen. It appears to basically only be big enough to play against Arbroath, and they're not even in the league anymore, so God knows what they're going to do this season. It's going to be like hotcakes trying to get tickets for those games. On the pitch, I mean, I'd love to agree with Scott, and I in my head, I kind of do. But I mean, 16 goals in 4 games, and for our takeaway to be, you don't know where the goals are coming from, feels a little bit kind of. But I get what you're saying. Like when they come up against better sides, but at the same time, you can only play what's in front of you. They were scoring for fun in that League Cup campaign. Maybe Zach Ruddens has missed. Nah, he's not. He's pish. I don't know. I agree with Scott. I think that they're really hard to judge. I kind of don't feel they'll be as good as Falkirk, if I'm honest, but I think they'll be in and around that dead zone between the two playoffs. They'll be
Ian Murray's first season 7th place specialists.
Kind of, yeah, but I see. I don't know. I think they'll be. Remember last season or the season? I think it was the season before. The league basically split in half after like half a season, and then it was just like top half and bottom half. I don't see that happening this year. I do see it being a lot tighter, a lot closer. I can see the playoff positions being decided on the final day, kind of like they were this year. There was that weird scenario where there were teams who could end up 4th or like 8th or 9th, even, to be fair. In that last couple of weeks, it could really swing either way. I could see it being quite close again this season, but time will tell. Again, and I've said it before with Livingston and a couple of others. I think he's a good manager. I think he'll get pretty good out of them, and I do see them. The weird thing with them is I do see them investing their money back into the squad. So I wouldn't be surprised if they've got another signing or two to come. Certainly loan signings. I would expect, like Sir Ben McPherson, to be coming back for Celtic on loan, but I would think there's maybe 1 or 2 still to come in.
Yeah, they did play Celtic in a pre-season friendly, and I think they scored actually 3 goals against them, and it was quite a strong Celtic team. But there's been speculation that they'll get lads from Celtic. Graeme, you got anything to add about Queen's Park?
I think the biggest loss for them, I know we're saying about Payton going, but I think Danny Wilson's a big loss as well at the back. That game we had at Hampden when it was 0-0, I thought he was excellent, and sort of marshalled the back 3 really, really well. So I think he'll be a loss. I will go down the usual. He couldn't score for us, so he'll score against us. Zach Rudden will score at Stars Park in front of the South Stand. It'll probably come off the post, hit his arse and go in or something like that. But it's guaranteed he's going to score. Yeah,
it'll be offside. There's no way he's going to score. He's going to be offside.
Again, I would say they're one of the maybe bottom 3, bottom 4. But again, you don't know what Davidson's going to pull at the loan market.
Yeah.
They could pull a couple of gems at the loan market that totally changes that team. But they have a lot of goals to replace and they have a lot of experience at the back to replace as well.
That Danny Wilson thing, though, that's weird.
It was weird.
And there's nothing being said, is there? He's not signed for anybody. He's not gone anywhere. Weird.
That was literally what I was looking for there.
I couldn't see anything. He
actually ended up there as well in the first place, to be honest.
Yeah. But then to be signed, and from what I read, it was like mutually agreed. They both just agreed to terminate his contract. I'm thinking, what's going on?
It's made even worse by the fact that Charlie Fox, I think, has had a serious injury, which is going to keep him out for a prolonged period of time.
He's likely to miss apparently the whole season.
Not that I particularly rated Charlie Fox as a defender. I remember that game where I think was it Sam Stanton he stamped on at Starks Park where he got sent off like rather needlessly.
It was
a couple of seasons ago maybe. But there's a few names in there that you sort of recognise before. Carol, you got anything to add on Queen's Park, or you just...
I just think that in 10, 20 years' time, Queen's Park are going to be the club that you can't remember in a pub quiz when someone says, can you name all the teams in the league? And you're just going to go, which one? Who were they? Yeah, I just think it's going to be that nondescript team near the bottom that you can't remember in 10 years' time.
I think that's a fair comment to make, but yeah, we will now move on to Saturday's game. A bit of a look ahead to our opener against Airdrie now. Just to kick us off, think Airdrie, I think there was a lot of expectancy that, and it did appear to be the case initially, that there was going to effectively be an asset strip with them. So Graeme, obviously quite a few players going out there in the summer. I've got Nere's toe poker up here, which has been well referenced over the last few sort of podcasts and on the terrace before. So yeah, if you look in terms of the outgoings for Airdrie, Cammy Ballantyne went away to Morton. Callum Fordyce obviously arrives at us. Callum Gallagher's went up to Arbroath. Robbie Hemfrey left for Arbroath as well. Josh Ray, their first choice keeper, went to St Johnstone. Charlie Telfer's obviously probably one of the most prolific names in there, went off to Ross County. Todorov on to Aces. And other than that, really, the likes of Lyle, Megwa, Josh O'Connor all going back to their parent clubs, and Gabby McGill's still a free agent. So what did you make initially in terms of the outgoings from Airdrie and just all the players that have left? Did you think it was going to be quite a big challenge for Rhys McCabe in terms of rebuilding?
I think it is, but I think if you look at those players you've just rattled off, 3 have gone up a level. Yeah? And the rest of them have gone down. So, was the team better than the individuals? Probably. So, I don't think Airdrie should be that concerned. I think the team will be as strong as it was last year. And I think that's what happens when you're really tied into a sort of scouting agency or a players agency that you can just go, we'll have him and we'll have him and we'll have him. And they don't need to do a lot of scouting because it's already done for them with all the players having the same agents. I expect them to be no much different for last year, to be honest. I would say probably pushing the playoffs again, whether they make the playoffs or not, I don't know, but I think that's where they'll go. As I say, I think the team was better than the players that were in it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And Blair, just to come to you, I think the major player that managed to keep under wraps was Adam Frizzell. Got him extended on a new contract. So were you quite surprised to see that, given how well he'd done last season?
Yeah, although he's kind of one of those players, I think, that never really sets the header alight. Particularly, he's kind of a bit of a steady Eddie in that kind of regard. He's one of those players that I think you always notice as being decent. I don't think he ever really massively stood out. I'm really intrigued by this guy they've signed, this Ben Wilson, that they've picked up for, is it Cliftonville he came in from? I mean, he's obviously scored a hat-trick against East Kilbride, but at this point, I'm pretty sure I could probably get a couple. But he scored in all 3 of the other games, including the game at Aberdeen. Like, that's impressive, I've got to say. Like, to be replacing Todorov with a guy who can score, I mean, what's that, 3, 4, 5, 6 goals in 4 games? Was that?
He got 8 apparently in the group stage.
Was it 8? Jeez. Like, that's just frightening. That's like a season for a lot of boys. I don't know. I kind of agree with what Graeme's saying about the better than the sum of their parts. I think they were better than the sum of their parts last year, but I think on evidence there's nothing to say that he can't get better than the sum of the parts again this year. And he seems to have strengthened in kind of the right places. It's such a funny thing, though. You look at their list of signings, there's nobody where you go, oh, by the way, I'd have taken him, or I'd have taken him. There's not a single one of them I looked at and thought, oh man, I'd liked him to come in. But
yeah,
based on the League Cup campaign, and I know we're saying it's not the be-all and end-all, but they did it against a team that was better than them. I know they got beat in the end, but a narrow 2-1 defeat up at Pittodrie is nothing to shake a stick at.
100%, and they got through to the second round, so that's more than a lot of teams can say. I think that, I fully agree with your point. I mean, you look at the names that they've brought in. So Rhys Armstrong's came in from the Spartans, Cammy Bruce's came from Queen's Park, Dylan McDonald, much like ourselves, another highly rated young player that's came in from East Kilbride. Lewis McGrattan's arrived from Morton. Probably the marquee signing out of those names that's came in the summer's been Chris Mockery, who's came in from Dundee United. I think he's probably the most recognisable name, and albeit he didn't have it. Our good friend and viewer's choice of Callum, Aaron Reid arrived from Aberdeen. Aidan Wilson and Ben Wilson both came in from Northern Ireland. Aidan Wilson was Glentoran. Terrell Agimans arrived from Middlesbrough. Murray Aitken and Murray Johnson have both arrived from Hibs, with Kieran Wright, ex-Rover, coming in from Rangers on loan. He must have been on us about 8th or 9th loan spell now, I think, Kieran Wright. And then finally, Cammy Coopers came in from Oxford United. So, yeah. Scott, just what have your impressions been of Airdrie so far, and how do you think their season will go?
Yeah, well, I think just whilst Rhys McCabe's in charge and whilst they've still got, as Graeme touched on, this whole agency link-up, I could see them being just very similar. It seems to be that McCabe's basically told this agency what he's looking for, and they've basically just given him every player that will suit that style. So, and I must say, I watched that Aberdeen Airdrie game, and I thought that the boy Wilson, I tell you what, he won't get involved in the game much from what I've seen, but he'll stick the ball in it. He just, his goal came out of nothing. He's like, the ball was just bouncing about the box, and he's literally just turned round and hit it into the bottom corner without even looking. Like, he just seems to know where the ball, where the back of the net is. And I mean, I think he got about 20 goals last season for that Cliftonville lot, and they ended up actually qualifying for Europe, I think, probably because of him with his goals. So I do think that he'll, if he continues the way he is, I think we were talking about earlier in the group chat, he could actually be gone by January. Because if Airdrie have got a player like that, again, it's the same situation with like Stephen Kelly. I could see a bottom six side in the Premiership going, well, we're needing goals, so we'll take you. I mean, it's just I just think that's the way it's going to go. But as I say, I just see a Rhys McCabe side playing pretty decent football. They'll very rarely go long, and they'll just play it out for the back every single time. And yeah, I just hope we didn't struggle as much this season against them, because last season was pretty tough to watch, considering before last season they hadn't beaten us since 2011, and that, like, they must have felt, oh Christ, we're never going to beat the Rovers, and yet we're now thinking, right, let's hope that this isn't going to be the same this season.
I was very eagerly anticipating an Airdrie downfall, so I've got to say I'm absolutely crestfallen that they've actually done so well in the League Cup and going into the season. So I've got egg all over my face, which, let's be honest, is not the first time in the history of podcasting that's happened. Going back to what you said though, Blair, before, and obviously you've mentioned it as well, Scott, Ben Wilson's had a really impressive start, beating in among the goals. I think it's very intriguing to sort of see him compared to the likes of the players that Morton have brought in from down south in Wales, where sometimes it's just a complete lottery as to, I'm sure there's more science to it, but yeah, it feels like it's a complete lottery as to how some of these players come in and actually do. Carol, Rhys McCabe signed a new deal in the summer, I believe. So do you think started the season very well, do you think he's probably the highest rated manager in terms of potential pick going forward for a future Premier League side or elsewhere? Now, he's over the 30 years of age mark. I think that was a bit of a negative point for him before for some clubs, but do you think that he might be potentially tempted away at some point later this season?
So, and they can sniff around him all they like as long as they keep away from Ian Murray. That's my input, is that, yeah, I think he's obviously a good manager. He obviously knows what he's doing. Well, he obviously knows what to ask for from the agency. And yeah, I think that he would, if I don't know who the Premiership team will be who will need a new manager, but I think he'll be the first port of call come the start of the season.
Yeah, I think it's if
clubs are willing to put it in any predictions or that, but my hot take is he's the next Dundee United manager once Jim Goodwin's found out yet again at the Premiership.
I think that that game this weekend, the Dundee derby, I can see Dundee potentially getting a good result against them, given the way that the league started so far, the League Cup,
I think
how well Dundee have done.
Absolutely thump them. I do. I think it could be like a 2 or a 3-0. Like it's going to be.
Is it at Paradise?
Is it?
Is
I thought it was.
Is there going to be a
It's West Ends at the moment, I thought.
It's
Is there going to be a pitch
because
inspection
they
if
have
it's at
tickets
the
for the. I was going to say, if it's at Tannadice, can they actually get a full capacity, or is it going to be operational issues as well? I'm sure that the Dundee United fans that slide into our DMs on a continuing basis will be quick to tell us that we are wrong and that their opinions are still absolutely
They're starting to
irrelevant.
panic already. No, it is Tannadice, you're right enough. It is
Aye,
Tannadice.
aye.
It is
Anyway.
nice that they still care for us. It's like a holiday romance. You know, they came down and spent a year with us, and now they're so sad that they've left us, and they still want to keep in touch.
It's very funny that there was Rovers put up like quite a generic post about something like, coming up for like the first game of the season, get your tickets, etc., etc. There's a Dundee United fan underneath it saying, "I thought you made it to the second round of the League Cup. Oh wait, I couldn't see you there." And you're thinking, "Gee, so you guys, you know when we said you're rattled? This is a perfect example of you being rattled. Like, you're just kind of proving our point at the moment." But just shout out to those lads. Best of luck to you. We'll focus now on Rovers. So yeah, Ian Murray was in the courier today. We obviously were missing five bodies last week. The shape of Ewan Murray, Paul Hanlon, Scott Brown, Lewis Vaughan. So yeah, just Sam Stanton was out with an illness as well. I did open it up a wee bit, this one, for sort of the Twitter questions. So Dino came in and basically asked the question, "I still think the squad lacks depth in a few areas off the pitch. Striker, centre-back, right-back and possibly centre midfield. Who would you guys bring in? Also, if you could bring in any player from years gone by, who would you pick?" So, Graeme, I'm going to start with you. If there was anyone that you could bring in from the past to add to the Rovers squad, who would you be looking at?
Craig Brewster.
Craig Brewster.
I used to think comps of Craig Brewster, so there's part of the reason. I'd bring him back in. I think that 92-93 season, the amount of times Craig Brewster picked the ball up 20 yards out and just hit it and it went in the back of the net. Aye, I'll tell him in a minute. Clever player. Very clever player. Played for years as well. Very clever player. I'd have him. Definitely.
And Scott, for you, any new signing that you would make in any positions? Who would you be looking towards?
I think for new signings, I've kind of said that I would like another striker, preferably with a bit of pace, just because I think Hamilton and Vaughan, between them, didn't have really a lot of pace about them. I know we've been playing Callum Smith, obviously, as well, up front during the group stages, but I just worry that Callum Smith might not get you quite enough goals up front, but I think he's a perfect player to bring off the bench in the Championship and just run defences ragged for 25 minutes near the end of a game. But I think I would go with try and get a striker in the door, because also if Vaughan's going to be injured for any longer, you're then relying that Jack Hamilton doesn't get injured, and he's already taken like a knock as well in pre-season. So I would potentially look at a right back. Now, I'm also agreeing with Blair from a previous episode. I think he's getting an awful lot of stick right now, and I think it's actually unwarranted so far. I think the lad didn't play a whole lot of football at Dundee United, and then he's also only played a handful of games in Ireland recently. I think the good thing is he's came in terms of decent condition, because he's already had pre-season in sort of March time, so he was already kind of match fit when he came to us. But I think the lad just needs to settle into the team, and I think he'll be fine. I don't expect him to be whizzing up and down that wing, crossing balls into the box, but I just think that he'll not be as bad as what everybody's been making out to be. Although I would like somebody as a right back just for competition, because at the same time, I didn't want to be just resorting back to, Ross Matthews can go back and play there. At the end of the day, you want Matthews in his best position. So it's the same situation as Scott Brown last season. Just because he can play there doesn't mean that you just resolve to that. You've got to, if we've got ideas of going for this title again, you've got to, kind of like Partiker, they're basically stocking up in positions, apart from a right back, funny enough, but I would want a right back and a striker, and then if you're going off your one for before, I think everybody would love to see somebody like Regan Hendry back in a Rovers jersey. I think if we can get him in the midfield with likes of Stanton, Bruni, Byrne, I don't know how you would cope with our midfield then.
it'd be the 4-2-3-1 Cameron and Fleming selection choice would be a very, very difficult one to make there. Yeah, I think those are all valid points. Interesting. We did a little sort of survey within our own group of like our points of like predictions for the season 1 to 10, and sort of player. I put in a question about like players that you're most looking forward to watching next season. Two of the respondents, I won't name names yet, came back with a player that does not play for Raith Rovers yet, and I'll leave you to speculate who that might be. With the second point, I think that you've obviously touched on, and Blair, you spoke about before about obviously Kieran Freeman and some of the sort of stick that he's came in for, and again I've obviously commented before about like I found it frustrating that he turns inside and he'll play the ball, but again I think that you've got to. I think there's a bit of a difference between asking a question and giving a player abuse. I think there's a big difference in the sort of factor like, okay, can we do things better? And I think as a football fan, you've always got to have the belief that players do improve over time. He's still a very young lad. And as I said in the group chat, he's going to be getting coached by, you think about the players that we've got on a defensive front that you can get coached by. So you start off, you've got John Potter, Lewis Stevenson, Fordyce, all guys that have been there and done it, some of them with Scotland caps as well. So yeah, there's no reason why he can't improve, and I don't think it helps anyone, just some of the reactions. I know that, Blair, you said that you'd seen someone that said like we need to replace like straight away.
See, for me, it's not
anyone.
No, it's not even just that though. I think that maybe because I must admit I did listen back. I was a bit tired the other night when we did that podcast. I did listen back to it, and I think the point I was really trying to make, it's not even just about abuse. I just think it's really funny that the thing and I did say that on Sunday night, the thing that's been said a lot is about confidence, and he's a player that's lacking confidence.
Yeah.
But audibly groaning in the stadium when things don't come off for him or when he moves inside, I'm like, how's that going to build the guy's confidence? If we recognise as a sport that the guy's lacking confidence, let's try and build his confidence a little bit. Like, because I do think there's a player in there. I think his season, and I think Scott's absolutely right, having no competition probably won't do him any good.
Mm-hmm.
But having that ability to kick on will, I think, will ultimately come from how he settles and how he kind of gets on. I don't think it's a matter of ability. I think it is just about like the way things are going to fall, the way the chips will land, I suppose. But
I know Ian Murray's spoken in a couple of interviews now, sort of post-match pressures, where he's spoken about like players going into their shells, and I think that behaviour that's going to encourage that is if you do abuse players, because then they're going to sort of say, I don't want the ball, I don't want to play. In terms of like what you're hoping for, you're kind of like you're banking on the opposite reaction from a negative. Really, you're hoping that your negative leads to a positive in a way. But yeah, it's I'd fully agree with that in terms of what you've said. So yeah, to stick with you, Blair, Lewis Vaughan has obviously not played in the League Cup so far, and we did get another question there from Luke Todd, who was basically asking, do you think Vaughan's going to be available for Saturday? Luke, I know that Ian Murray was saying that he was very likely and that he trained very, very well, he was saying in the press. Would you think that Ian Murray would risk him in terms of the squad, or do you think he'll give him a bit more time before putting him in?
No, I can see him being part of the squad. He's not going to start. I think that would be crazy, particularly on the pitch at Airdrie, which is usually quite dry. Mind you, I don't know if they'll maybe make an effort with the kind of football that McCabe plays to kind of water it a bit and make it a bit more of a surface for him. But no, I don't imagine he'll risk him unless he absolutely has to. But I mean, it's Lewis Vaughan. If you've got 10, 15 minutes left and you're needing a goal, what a guy to be bringing off the bench. Do you know what I mean? Even a 75% fit Lewis Vaughan has got a chance of scoring. I mean, if the squad stays as it is just now, almost guaranteed to be our top goal scorer again this season. Based on the fact he takes all the penalties is probably part of it as well. But he's a talented guy. Do you know what I mean? And he's Mr. Raith Rovers. So yeah, you've got to hope he's back involved again on Saturday. It'd be good to see him back involved. I think that gives everybody a lift as well, doesn't it?
100%. That was, again, going back to that sort of like questions that we asked in terms of like predictions. Lewis Vaughan was like one of the 2 unanimous answers, I think, as to sort of like predictions, and everyone came back saying Lewis Vaughan would be top scorer for us. So yeah, I was actually listening to an episode of Draw Lose or Draw, the Partick podcast, and they had a question about like if you could keep one player fit, free from suspension, who would you choose? And that would be the most daft question to ask on a Raith Rovers podcast, I think. So Blair, just to stick with you, just one final point is just going back to that question. If you could bring back any player to play for us for this season, who would you have?
It's pretty hard to argue with Brewster or Regan Henry, to be honest. I think in the squad that we have just now and what we most need, I think I would probably take Brewster. But if he was not available through being in his 50s, I would probably... I'd probably look for Kevin Nisbet when he was with us that season. I think he would slot right in. But right now, if we could sign pretty much anybody and Ziggy, I'd be going after Big Ziggy. I think he would fit in to this team so well. He's exactly the kind of player that actually I think would just add that little bit of cherry on top.
He would be my pick. I was going to self-answer that for myself, but you've answered it for me, because even at 17 and 16, the lad was just incredibly fun to watch. It's just that sort of enthusiasm that he had, just the willingness to sort of drive with the ball, and it was very little surprise when we had him that he went on to Fulham, and he's been linked heavily to Hibs at the moment. So if that comes off, I'll be very keen to see how he does there. Carol, just to come to you next, I'm just going to look now. It's Scott Brown and Paul Hanlon were the 2 that were sort of less likely to feature for this one. So how big do you think they'll be in terms of misses for the squad going ahead for this one? And also as well, like you said, the former player or current future player that you could have.
I think Brown just is going to be a big miss if he's not on, because he's a really good captain. I think at the moment he's really good at communicating. He's really good at working it from the back and bringing it forward. So yeah, I think he's going to be missed. Hanlon, fingers crossed he gets on the pitch.
We're all itching.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just like touch on what you've all been saying, especially what Blair's been saying. I think if I could bring anything to the club at the moment, I would follow the example of Girona Football Club at the moment. They have a dog. They have a club dog that comes in and works with supporters and players to calm the shit down. And I think that's what some of our fans need, okay? You're not going to be angry at Fordyce or anyone if there is a nice little Labrador puppy bouncing around in the front of the stand. You're going to be like, oh, puppy, lovely. So that's what I think we should have, is we should have an official dog. And and for the... Do you know that would be the best idea ever? Just a Raith Rovers dog, calm everybody down.
This isn't like
We've already got a tiger cage, so...
No, it's a real Labrador. It's works. It's part of their disabled access and to calm people down and to make it a safe space. And they've done this dog, and it's. I will send you the Instagram link for their own Cagna de Girona FC. But yeah, I think that would be a good addition to the Raith Rovers Football Club. Just a therapy dog, not for the players, but for some of the fans who just need to chill the fuck out. We haven't started yet. Calm the shit down, okay? Take whatever chill pill you need to do. Calm it down. And previous player, I think I would love to see Danny Lennon back. I think just to have a nippy wee team on that pitch again would be great. Yeah.
I was going to say, I think we've already got the tiger cage, so just get an actual tiger in it. Just be excellent.
Fantastic. Yeah. Talking about a dog for a team when your mum and dad have got a dog who's got pups. Are you on commission to get rid of these puppies or something?
They're all gone. They have all gone. But yeah, that's what I would do. I would have a club dog, put it in the stand and just calm some people down. Just be like nice and calm. Be kind, people. We haven't started yet. You can lose your shit at Christmas, but until that point, keep it calm.
I was going to say, I'll just very quickly, before we get to the actual kind of predictions and stuff for Saturday, I just want to take everybody back to Firhill, opening game of the season last year. I went to the toilet at half-time, and everybody was calling for Murray's head. He doesn't care what he's doing. It's an absolute shambles. This club's going nowhere. Like, they've not got a clue what they're doing. Every single player out there's a disgrace. And then you end up in the playoff final. And yeah, fair enough, it never went quite as close as we would have liked it. But we ran the league close. Like, patience, young Padawan.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good takeaway to have, that no squad's complete at the moment.
Totally.
And that we've still got, I mean, you think about who's still to come back. So you start off Sam Stanton, probably the best player of last season. You chuck in Ewan Murray, really, really solid defender at this level, everyone's favourite meathead. You then add in Scott Brown, who just changes our squad, the dynamic in it, and all action can get across the pitch. You've got Paul Hanlon, however many 100 appearances for Hibs, yet to kick a ball for Raith Rovers in a competitive game, but you can't look at him and say, oh, Paul Hanlon might add something to the squad. He's coming in as a guarantee that when he gets in that team, you've got that experience. And then finally, you've got Mr. Raith Rovers, as you say, Blair, Lewis Vaughan, still to come back. It's going to change things completely for us. I don't think anyone should be under any illusions about that. So there's every reason to be optimistic.
That game at Firhill, the two goal scorers, Ethan Ross and Kieran Mitchell, neither of which finished the season with the club.
Yeah.
Like, we're just into August. It's the first today, so there's a lot of stuff to happen yet. Just, I mean, in terms of top goal scorer and stuff, I know we're going to put kind of stuff out what we've all predicted and stuff. I actually don't think our top goal scorer signed for us yet. I still think that there's something to come. I think there's a player to come, whether it's Stevie May or whether it's Tory Watt, or whoever it ends up being. I genuinely just think that there's another signing to come. It'll come from somewhere.
I just want Rovers to post for Tony Watt signing just a box, a 6-pack of eggs, and that'll be it. And you'll know it. And that'll be me. I'll be crying my laughter.
Hilarious. Could you imagine?
Brilliant. Do we want to do?
That's the club dog. We'd have a club chicken.
Just turn the Titan into a chicken coop. Have we got lineups for Saturday's game?
I have.
Right. Blair, you want to kick us off?
Really boring, because it's pretty much the team that I think he'll be kind of forced to go with as much as anything else. So Big Kevin goals. I think if Murray's fit, he'll start him with Fordyce, Freeman and Stevenson as fullbacks, and then it'll be Byrne with hopefully Brown, but it might end up being Matthews. No disrespect to Matthews, but I think Brown will add something in there, particularly against Airdrie. Stanton will be back at 10. Connolly on the right, Easton on the left, and Jack Hamilton up front.
Right, I think that's
pretty bog standard.
Pretty bog standard
like a
lineup.
4-2-3-1 if ever I heard one.
Oh, that's like the Batman symbol in the sky for a certain formation. Scott Fleming, tell us, what have you got?
Not too dissimilar, to be honest. I think the only change I've got, or difference, is I've went with Callum Smith ahead of Hamilton, just for that little bit of extra pace sort of in behind and then in. It's the only thing that I thought when I watched that Aberdeen Airdrie game just the other week there, that I thought that Airdrie, when Miofsky came off the bench for Aberdeen, he brought just a little bit extra pace than what the boys Sockler had, and they seemed to drop deeper and struggle more with that. So I just think that maybe if you can get a little bit of extra pace there, and Smith's already, I know that Hamilton got the goal against Stranraer, but Smith's had a goal in pre-season, goal in the Cup as well up at Ross County, so Smith seems to be a pretty good level of confidence now, so I think it's now I would be starting him, and then, I mean, Hamilton's not a bad sub to be bringing on either late on in the game if you're...
Worth saying as well, he was very good at Ross County, Callum Smith.
Yeah.
He had a really good game.
Yeah, and I mean, when you think we've just named basically the same team bar one different player, and then you've got potential on the bench guys like Ross Matthews, Josh Mullen, Lewis Gibson, potentially Lewis Vaughan, Jack Hamilton, and then Liam Dick and Kai Montague. I mean, that's some bench, like.
Yeah, a lot to really mull over in terms of these lineups. Graeme, for you got a lineup there?
No, I don't. I don't think. I think the guys have probably nailed it. I would just like whoever starts at 9. Well, you say 9, but you know what I mean. Centre forward gets a goal. Yeah, whoever starts there get a goal. It'll basically do the dog effect of coming the fuck everybody down. Yeah. Yeah.
Goals work. Aye, that's plenty. Graeme, can I
Kieran Freeman cross, even better. Yeah.
Aye.
Just chill out. As Blair said, chill out. The year we did the double, we didn't win a game for 6. I think it was game number 6 before we won a game. Right? Calm down. Chill
Graeme,
out.
I'm fully on board for your strategy of scoring goals over dogs. If there's no labs at Starks Park, but we're winning games comfortably, I'm absolutely fine. Sorry about that, Carol. Carol,
No, I'll take goals over dogs.
What about your lineup?
I've went for pretty much similar to what we had with Hamilton. The only thing I can't decide is between Brown and Matthews, obviously because Brown's coming back from an injury. But I think it's the dilemma we're going to have all season. The squad that we start with, the starting 11 is not going to be the same finishing 11, and I think that's going to be Murray's strategy. Is he's not thinking of my starting 11, he's thinking of my finishing 11. What do I need to do to finish this game? So yeah, I've gone for Stevenson, Dick, Fordyce, Freeman. I've gone for Byrne, Matthews, but that might be depending on Brown. And then I've gone Easton, Gibson up front, Mullen and Hamilton.
Gibson's one for me that I want to see starting. I think that his time in the Tiger cage has came to an end and he needs unleashed because he's been very impressive off the bench, and it really feels like he's getting that. I know that we spoke about it so much last season, so if anyone's joined us just recently, the theory that Ian Murray has players on the bench locked up in a Tiger cage, just rattling them, winding them up and releasing them, as put forward by Blair. That's basically the idea behind it. And I think that that's been the case for him. I think that he's ready to go now, and that he could have a huge impact for us. So I'd be keen for keeping a similar lineup to Hamilton. I would like it's been mentioned, bringing Ewan Murray at centre back if available over Liam Dick. I would take out Kai Montague and have a more experienced sort of number 10 in there, whether it's Easton or Stanton, but then also have Gibson on. And I think it's really, as you said before, either one of Hamilton or Smith up top. I think that you just want them to score goals. So either of them, I feel, has got the capability of doing it. And hopefully, whichever one starts, they'll be able to kick us on and we can have a positive start to the season. Airdrie, one of these places before where we have won on the opening day, of course, when we beat them, Big Marv's header. So fingers crossed that we can start off in a similar fashion to like we did back in 2007, I think it was. Mm-hmm. So yeah. Just go for a round of predictions. Start off with you, Carol. What's your thoughts?
3-1 Rovers.
Good.
Blair?
1 each.
Scott?
Yeah, I think I'm going along the same. I think it'll be a draw, 1-1.
Graeme, you're nodding your head there.
Yeah, 1-1 draw, and it gets us 1 point more than we did when we played them there last season. So we're a point ahead after one game.
that was very well finessed at the end there. I think that my heart's saying a Rovers win. My head's saying that Aaron Reid's going to score a 90th minute winner after we've just ripped the piss out of him for about 4 weeks solid. So that'll bring us to the end of one of our longest ever episodes. So thank you for taking the time to listen. I know that we're not quite hitting Terrace Chatter's records yet, but Blair,
we need to come back to the predictions just very quickly.
Of course we do. Right.
So if you've made it this far, I should have done this at the beginning. Jeez. If you've made it this far and you're still listening, give me 2 minutes. So what we're going to do is throughout the season, I think the Rovers are going to launch their own prediction league as well, so this might get kiboshed. But we're going to do 2 games a week. It'll be the Rovers game plus one other game. All you have to do is fill in the online form. You are effectively picking whether you think the team will win to nothing or whether you think the team will draw or lose or whatever. So it's basically a win, lose or a draw. So home, away or draw is your first pick, and then both teams to score is the second. So there's 4 predictions every week, 2 for each game, point each. I'll keep a tally, I'll put league tables up and all the rest of it, and there'll be prizes throughout the season. It's just a bit of fun, and we'll all get involved as well. And yeah, hopefully it runs every week. As I say, over 50, and there's 56 or 57 already involved so far since I launched it this afternoon. So hopefully we can get up to triple figures before the weekend. Would be nice.
Yeah, it's a welcome addition, and it's it's been great. I think it's good when you get this sort of like interactions in terms of stuff like this. So yeah, it's been really well received, and thanks for taking the time, Blair, to get that all sorted there. I know it's something that you've been quite keen to do, and we'd spoken about before. As ever, you can find us in all the usual places: Twitter, Instagram. We've got a shop, and we've got a link as well to the Prediction League on the link tree that we've got there. But yeah, thanks for taking the time for listening, and if we see you on Saturday, feel free to say hello. But until then, bye for now.